July 31st, 1944, 6:12 hours. Near Vranches, Normandy. The morning air smells like cordite and crushed hedgerows. Low fog clings to the fields, dampening sound, turning engines into distant growls rather than roars. Somewhere ahead, a Sherman transmission grinds as it downshifts. Boots sink into wet earth. Radios crackle once, then go silent. You can almost feel it before you see it. The line is breaking. German resistance, so solid just days ago, is suddenly thin, not defeated, not surrendered, just gone. A seam has opened in the front, barely wide enough for a column of armor, but widening by the minute. American units hesitate for a breath, train for caution, for methodical advance. Then the order comes. Go. Tanks surge forward. Half-tracks follow. Infantry cling to the sides, faces streaked with grime, eyes wide with disbelief. This isn't another bloody push-through blockage. This is movement, speed, space. Behind them, the Normandy hedgerows, the green concrete walls that swallowed entire battalions, begin to fall away. Ahead lies Brittany, open country, maneuver warfare. This is a moment history will remember as Patton's Breakout. George S. Patton will soon arrive like a thunderclap, polished helmet, ivory-handled pistols, words sharp enough to cut steel. Cameras will follow him. Headlines will chase him. His name will become inseparable from the explosion of American power that follows. But standing at the nerve center of this moment, quiet, compact, radiating controlled urgency, is another general entirely, Lieutenant General J. Lawton Collins. Lightning Joe, and almost no one will give him the credit. Collins is not at the front of a charging column. He is hunched over a map table, sleeves rolled, jaw tight. The map is already outdated. Units are moving faster than the ink can keep up. Staff officers hover, waiting for direction. Collins doesn't shout. He points. Push it through. Don't stop. Keep them moving. This is not Patton's army yet. Not officially. This is 7 Corps, Collins' command. And what's unfolding here isn't luck or sudden German collapse. It's design. For 7 weeks after D-Day, the American army bled itself white in Normandy's hedgerows. Every field was a fortress, every lane a killing zone. German infantry, outnumbered, outgunned, still managed to stall entire divisions. Progress was measured in yards, casualties in thousands. Morale sagged, patience thinned. Washington grew restless. Then came Operation Cobra. On paper, Cobra was simple, a massive aerial bombardment to punch a hole in the German line west of St. Lo, followed by a ground assault to exploit the breach. In reality, it was chaos waiting to happen. Bombs fell short. American troops were hit. Units were disoriented. The attack nearly collapsed before it began. Nearly. What saved it wasn't brute force. It wasn't even air power. It was Collins's refusal to let the moment slip away. Where other commanders saw confusion, Collins saw opportunity. Where doctrine demanded caution, he sensed fragility in the enemy line, stress fractures invisible on maps but obvious in behavior. German units were exhausted. Command and control was fraying. Reserves were gone. This wasn't a wall anymore. It was a door. And doors don't stay open long in war. Lightning Joe earned his nickname in the Pacific, Guadalcanal, New Georgia, where speed and decisiveness kept Marines alive. He learned early that hesitation kills more surely than bullets. In Europe, he applied the same principle, but with a scalpel instead of a hammer. As Cobra sputtered, Collins pushed. He fed armor into gaps before they were fully secured. He bypassed resistance instead of grinding it down. He trusted subordinates to act, not wait. This was risky, reckless, even by 1944 American standards. But it worked. By July 30th, German 7th Army was unraveling. By the morning of July 31st, 7 Corps units reached the Vranches, the gateway out of Normandy. If the Germans held it, the Breakout died. If they lost it, the entire Western Front collapsed. Collins understood that instinctively. He reinforced success instead of consolidating it. He committed reserves not to protect flanks, but to widen the breach. He ordered engineers to clear roads not for defense, but for speed. And speed was everything. Because once the Breakout succeeded, once open maneuver returned to the battlefield, there was only one man the world expected to lead it. Patton. When Third Army was activated on August 1st, the spotlight shifted instantly. Patton took the field with theatrical brilliance, issuing rapid-fire orders, driving units hard, turning momentum into legend. But the runway had already been built. Patton didn't punch the hole. He exploded through it. And history, hungry for heroes with flair, would soon forget the man who made that explosion possible. As columns poured west and south, as German defenses disintegrated into flight and panic, Collins remained at his headquarters, calm, focused, almost invisible. No speeches, no cameras, just results. Yet even now, with a breakout underway and the Germans reeling, a question lingered in the dust and engine smoke. Why would the man who enabled one of the greatest advances of the war fade into the background, while others became immortal? The answer was already taking shape, and it had nothing to do with tactics. August 3rd, 1944, 22:40 hours, somewhere east of Avranches. The maps are a mess now. Unit symbols spill past their intended boundaries, arrows overlapping like tangled wires. Staff officers keep erasing and redrawing front lines that refuse to stay still. Outside, engines run through the night. No blackout, no pause, just a constant mechanical thunder rolling east. Lightning Joe Collins stands over it all, hand braced on the table, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion settling into his bones. This isn't how American wars are supposed to look. Doctrine says you consolidate gains, secure flanks, restore order before pushing again. Collins ignores doctrine. Don't let them breathe, he says. Quiet, certain. If they stop running, they'll start killing us again. You can almost feel the tension in the room. Every mile advanced without pause risks overextension. Every unit pushed forward risks isolation. And yet, every hour wasted gives the Germans time to recover. Collins chooses momentum. This is where his story begins to diverge from the legend forming around Patton. George Patton understands something essential about modern war. It is fought not only on battlefields, but in memory. He cultivates presence, sharp language, aggressive posture, symbolic gestures that give chaos a human face. When soldiers talk about Patton, they feel something. Collins does none of that. He doesn't seek attention. He doesn't posture. He doesn't craft quotes for reporters or lean into theatrics. When correspondents arrive, he gives them facts, coordinates, timetables, boring facts, the kind that don't make headlines. And in a war increasingly consumed by public perception, by photographs, newsreels, and narrative, boring is a liability. Yet operationally, Collins is doing something extraordinary. As Patton's Third Army surges through Brittany and then pivots east, it relies on corridors Collins has kept open by instinct and pressure. German units trying to regroup find American forces already behind them. Supply dumps are captured intact. Command posts are overrun before orders can be issued. This isn't accidental. Collins understands German doctrine intimately. He knows their strength lies in coordinated counterattack, not static defense. So he denies them coordination. He attacks not where they are strong, but where they must move next. He bypasses towns. He leaves pockets to wither. He turns the battlefield fluid when German command is desperate for solidity. The result is catastrophic for the enemy. Entire divisions dissolve. Prisoners stream west in stunned columns, many unaware the front even collapsed. German officers speak of American cavalry tactics, units appearing where they shouldn't be, moving faster than intelligence predicts. This is Lightning Joe's war. Fast, relentless, unspectacular to watch, but devastating to endure. And still, the credit slides elsewhere. Headquarters communiques increasingly frame the advance as Patton's vision realized. Newspapers follow Third Army's sweep across France. Patton's name becomes shorthand for American aggression itself. Collins's 7 Corps? Mentioned in passing. The supporting act. No one writes about the quiet decisions that prevented disaster when Cobra nearly failed. No one headlines the discipline it took to push without losing cohesion. No one celebrates a general who measures success not in territory taken, but in enemy options denied, because those things don't photograph well. There is another reason Collins fades from the story. He doesn't fight his peers. In a high-command environment thick with ego, rivalry, and quiet resentment, Collins is almost dangerously straightforward. He doesn't lobby Eisenhower. He doesn't undermine fellow commanders. He doesn't leak to the press. He assumes results will speak for themselves. They rarely do. Others are more vocal, more political, more willing to frame events in their favor. Collins lets them. As August wears on, the consequences of the breakout become clear. German forces attempt to counterattack near Mortain, one last desperate strike to cut Patton off and seal the breach. It fails. Badly. Because the breach is no longer a breach. It's a flood. American forces pour east, trapping entire German armies in what will soon be called the Falaise Pocket. The Western Front, once rigid and lethal, is now elastic, bending entirely in one direction. Victory feels inevitable, and inevitability is dangerous, because when victory becomes assumed, people stop asking how it was achieved and who made it possible. Lightning Joe Collins is about to discover that winning the war doesn't guarantee winning history. August 7th, 1944, 4:55 hours. Mortain, Normandy. The night explodes without warning. German artillery tears into American positions, shells screaming out of the dark like metal predators. Trees snap. Earth geysers upward. Radios crackle with overlapping calls, unit names, grid coordinates, panic fragments of sentences cut short by impact. This is it. The German counterattack, Operation Luttich, Hitler's last gamble in Normandy, has begun. Panzer divisions surge forward in the pre-dawn gloom, engines throttled low, commanders hoping speed and surprise can still change a war's direction. The objective is brutally simple. Drive to Avranches, cut the American Spear in half, and trap Patton's Third Army in Brittany. If they succeed, the breakout becomes a catastrophe. If they fail, Germany's Western Army is finished. Lightning Joe Collins is awake when the reports arrive. He doesn't need a briefing to understand the stakes. The map tells him everything. The Germans are doing exactly what he expected, throwing their remaining armored strength into a narrow corridor, hoping shock will replace coordination. It won't. Collins reacts instantly. He orders units to hold, not retreat, not countercharge, but fix the enemy in place. He shifts artillery priorities. He clears air support corridors despite weather that barely qualifies as flyable. And then he waits. This is a part no one sees on film. The discipline of restraint. Because Collins knows something the Germans don't. Daylight is coming. When the clouds lift, American aircraft descend like judgment. Fighter bombers tear into exposed panzers, rockets slamming into thin-top armor, turning columns into burning wreckage. German units stall, then freeze, then die in place. Their offensive power evaporates hour by hour. By the end of the day, Luttich is over. The German army has spent its last operational reserve. The road to encirclement lies open. And once again, Collins's anticipation, not improvisation, has decided the outcome. But history wants drama. It wants faces, voices, conflict. And here's where Lightning Joe's problem deepens. To tell a clean story of Normandy, someone must be cast as the aggressor, someone as a genius, someone as a symbol. The narrative cannot accommodate too many architects. It prefers one. Patton fits perfectly. Bold, profane, visibly kinetic. Collins does not. He is too controlled, too methodical, too uninterested in myth-making. So when the story of Normandy is told, the breakout becomes Patton's charge across France, and the counterattack becomes German desperation crushed by Allied air power, almost as if it happened automatically, almost as if no one had to make the call to hold at Mortain, almost as if failure had never been an option. Even within Allied command circles, Collins's role becomes background noise. Eisenhower trusts him deeply. Bradley relies on him. But trust doesn't equal spotlight. In fact, it often ensures the opposite. Reliable men are used. Flashy men are remembered. As the Falaise Pocket closes, trapping tens of thousands of German troops, Collins's corps again plays a crucial role, blocking escape routes, sealing gaps, absorbing counterthrusts that could unravel the encirclement. The work is brutal, unromantic, indecisive on camera, and essential. There's a bitter irony here. Collins is doing exactly what the U.S. Army will later claim to value most: coordination, restraint, combined arms integration. He is fighting the war correctly, by the book that hasn't been written yet. Patton, meanwhile, is fighting it memorably. When the war ends, memory will matter more than manuals, and Collins will find himself in a strange position, indispensable to victory, yet almost invisible within it. But the final erasure of Lightning Joe's legacy won't come in France. It will come later, in peace. May 9th, 1945, 10:30 hours. Somewhere in Germany, the guns are quiet, not paused, not repositioning. Quiet. Columns of American troops sit by the roadside, helmets off, weapons slung, staring at a countryside that no longer wants to kill them. Smoke still rises from distant towns, but no one reacts to it now. There's nothing left to shoot at. Victory has arrived without ceremony. For Lightning Joe Collins, it feels unfinished. The war ends, and the machinery of memory begins to turn. Books are written, interviews recorded, press tours arranged. Commanders are sorted, some elevated into legend, others folded into footnotes. The story of the European war condenses, simplifies, sharpens into something audiences can digest. D-Day, Patton's dash across France. The Battle of the Bulge, Berlin. There is no chapter titled The Man Who Made the Breakout Possible. Collins returns home with a reputation inside the army that borders on reverence. Officers who served under him speak in precise language. Best corps commander in Europe. Fastest mind in the theater. The one you wanted when things went wrong. But outside the army, silence. He gives no sensational interviews. He refuses to exaggerate his role. When asked about Normandy, he deflects to subordinates, to air power, to logistics. This is admirable. It is also fatal to legacy. The post-war army is shrinking. Budgets tighten. Public attention drifts. Those who adapt to the new political reality, who can justify themselves to Congress and the public, rise fastest. Collins is promoted, but not mythologized. Patton, even in death, grows larger. Bradley becomes a GI general. Eisenhower becomes president. Collins becomes dependable. And dependable men are rarely celebrated. There's another reason his story fades. Lightning Joe's greatest strength, operational brilliance without ego, offers no villain, no rivalry, no scandal. History thrives on tension between personalities. Collins avoids it. He doesn't feud with Montgomery. He doesn't clash publicly with Patton. He doesn't leak grievances. He simply does his job. And in peacetime, that makes him uninteresting. Yet quietly, his influence deepens. When the Cold War begins, the Army needs thinkers more than showmen. Collins rises again, not as a battlefield commander, but as a shaper of the future force. He becomes Army Chief of Staff during the Korean War, overseeing expansion, modernization, and reform. Once again, he is central. Once again, he is unseen. No dramatic charges. No sweeping headlines. Just decisions that determine whether the Army survives a new kind of war. Lightning Joe Collins dies in 1987. No National Day of Remembrance. No statues dominating public squares. No catchphrases etched into popular culture. And yet, every modern American doctrine of rapid exploitation, operational tempo, and combined arms maneuver carries his fingerprints. He fought the kind of war that wins conflicts, not headlines. And that is why the general behind Patton's Breakout got no credit. Because history remembers who shouted, not who opened the door. The breakout at Normandy did not begin with Patton's arrival. It began with a quiet decision, made at the edge of a hedgerow, by a man who understood that war rewards speed, but memory rewards spectacle. Lightning Joe Collins chose a war. Others chose a story.